Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. You see the thumbnail. I want to talk about wants and needs. Because there's a big difference between wanting something and needing something. Wanting something to happen and needing something to happen. And in my opinion, these three things need to happen for the New York Giants in order for them to be successful the way the roster is currently constructed today. I'm not talking about adding any more players. I'm not talking about trading for any more players. I'm talking about the way the roster is constructed right now. I need three things to happen. And if you already saw the thumbnail, you kind of know what I'm getting at. But the funny thing about this is all three of these guys have something very, very, very important in common. They all came from the 2023 draft class, and they were the first round, the second round, and the third round picks. I need all three of these guys to make whatever happen. I need these guys to develop within a year, and guess what? Each three of these guys are at different stages of their career right now. And we're going to talk about those things in just a moment. But before we get started, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you are a New York Giants fan, and you're not subscribed to this channel, shame on you. Shame on you, but guess what? You get to fix that by what? Subscribing to the channel right now and go ahead and like the video while you're at it. So the 2023 draft class, right? And I'm not even going to talk about the whole draft class because the jury's kind of out on especially the last three picks. We're still trying to figure out what Trey Hawkins can do or will become. But right now, I can't even talk about those guys. I want to talk about the first three picks. Tate Banks, my son John Michael Schmidz, and Jaylen Hyatt. A lot of the questions that a lot of the fan base have right now when it comes to the New York Giants are at what? Interior offensive line or offensive line. Who's going to be the next guy, wide receiver? Who's going to be that duo guy? And what are we going to do in the secondary? Who's going to be the cornerback? How the weakness that we have in the secondary. And we've made some changes. We added some players. And the secondary is way better on paper than it was last year. You're talking about the addition of Javon Holland. You talk about the addition of Paulson Adebo. You're talking about the second year for Tyler Nubin and the second year for Andrew Phillips. But when we look at that CB2 spot, because we already know Paulson Adebo is going to be the cornerback one. But when we look at Tay Banks, it's kind of 50-50 when it comes to Tay Banks in the fan base. A lot of people think he's already a bust. Everybody, the other half thinks, well, you know what? Let's see if he can continue to develop. Let's see if, it had to do with the scheme change and, this will be his second year in that scheme. There's a lot of things people are saying when it comes to Tate Banks, and he gets a lot of more rope because of what? He was a first-round pick. It matters. Some people don't think it matters whether you're drafted in the first round or the seventh round. No, it does matter with how many chances you get. And because Tate Banks was drafted in the first round, and because you look at his RAS score, you look at the skill set, you look at his speed, height, weight, things like that, you want this kid to be successful. I want him to be successful, but I'm telling you right now, when I look at last year's Tate Banks, and we'll get into the numbers, definitely need a big improvement from Tate Banks. Now, the pressure of being a cornerback one is now relieved. He doesn't have to be the cornerback one, but it does not make his job any easier because, again, in the NFC East, you're dealing with a lot of wide receiver duos, and no matter who we're playing, he's going to have to bring his A game week in and week out. But let's look at some of these grades from the 2024 season from Tate Banks. Overall grade was a 50.9. A 50 grade for your starting CB1 in 2024 is unacceptable. He ranked 182 with his overall grade, 182 out of 222 graded cornerbacks. Are you kidding me? That's not good enough at all, especially for a first-round cornerback. Pass rush grade, 70.4, but how often are you sending your cornerback out there for a blitz or during the pass rush? Run defense grade of 52, that's kind of normal when it comes to these cornerbacks. He is a physical type of cornerback. He's not afraid to tackle, in my opinion. Is his technique the best? Maybe not, but he's not afraid to throw his body out there when he is giving full effort. We'll get back to that in a second, too. His coverage grade of 50.3. Like, come on. That is not acceptable for your first round cornerback who is your default CB1 in 2024. Nobody's going to debate that. But a lot of people, again, will give leeway to the situations and circumstances, right? And obviously the whole deal with Jerome Henderson, the whole deal with him, lacking some hustle on some plays to the point where he got benched. That's kind of, where the fan base gets their information or how they feel, their temperament on Tate Banks is, okay, well, I like the kid, I liked him coming out of college. I like his physicality, but you can't quit on plays. You cannot quit on plays. So looking at some of his other stats, we got 45 tackles, 0 interception. Okay, that's not good enough. Pass breakups, he had 8 pass breakups, and then he allowed 49 receptions. Okay, so let me just talk about Tay Banks and what I'm seeing going into this 2025 season. So already he looks different. We've seen videos, he's put out videos. He looks completely, well, not completely different, but he looks stronger. He looked like he gained a lot of muscle, and he's putting out videos. He's putting out more videos than I've seen him in the last 2 seasons. He's got the workout videos showing off the swag. Again, he's working out. You see him running. You see him lifting. All that is fine. He looks quick. He looks sharp. He looks like he's in peak physical shape. And I love that. I love that. But we already know he was already physically gifted. 4'3", 40, 6 foot, 6'1", 200-pound cornerback. He was already physically gifted. We already know this. The question is, has he improved on his technique? And most importantly, has he improved on getting his head around? Because we've seen a lot of plays where he's been in the right position, but the play was still made because he couldn't get his head around, and the receiver ended up making the catch. But for me, to wrap this thing up for Tay Banks is, if Tay Banks, and that's a big if, not even a big if, but if Tay Banks can turn out to be maybe 75% of what we thought he was, I don't think that's a big ask either. Just 75%. If he can get things turned around, I think that's going to be big for the New York Giants. Because again, when it comes to the secondary, and a lot of people are still optimistic, I'm very, very optimistic. I actually think the secondary is going to be pretty good, or very good, I should say. But it just, the only question mark when I look at the secondary right now is Tay Banks. But everything that I'm seeing, especially in this offseason, the work that he's putting in, you like I said, you can see it in his physical appearance too. He almost looks like a linebacker in some cases, but definitely doesn't look like a cornerback, even like a rocked up safety type deal. But pause. But yeah, man, I can't wait to see if all the hard work that he put in pays off on the field, this upcoming season. And if he does that, it definitely help the New York Giants. Now, moving along to the second name on this list. Again, if you watch this channel, I call this player my son ever since he came out of college. Actually, when he was still in college and we didn't even draft him yet, I was calling this guy my son, because when it came to the New York Giants, when it came to this offensive line, there was always you need a solid center. You need to have a solid center. And coming out of college, it was arguable, maybe a little bit debatable, maybe not debatable at all, depending on who you're talking to. But John Michael Schmidz, to a lot of people, was like a can't-miss plug-and-play center. Now, he has some of his weaknesses as far as his athleticism. He's a center and only a center. He doesn't give you a lot of value at guard. So you knew what you were getting into when you drafted John Michael Schmidz. But again, it was so much good tape watching John Michael Schmidz. It was like, okay, he's a plug-and-play center, day one starter. Let's see how he does. And guess what? He was a plug-and-play center, but he also struggled. Now, some people are blaming on the musical chairs when it came to the offensive line, not having the continuity, not having just players that were up to par when it came to the offensive line. Some people blame it on the coaching, which I didn't think Bobby Johnson was a great coach, but you saw him go to the Washington Commanders and nobody really was complaining about that offensive line there. But there's a lot of things that you can say. Once we got Carmen Bracillo last year, I'm like, okay, Carmen Bracillo has a good track record of coaching. He took that Oakland Raiders offensive line that has some UDFAs on it and low draft picks on it, and he made them a top 15, at a certain part in that 2023 season. I'm like, okay, everything is looking up. John Michael Schmidz should take the next step. But guess what happened? Whether it's due to injuries, the neck injury, shoulder injury, and then just flat out not putting the right amount of good tape out there, it kind of fell flat for John Michael Schmidz. So now we're going into his third season, and a lot of people are like, well, you know what? This is a make it or break it year for John Michael Schmidz. And for me, I feel the same way. Again, I called this guy my son, and I keep making a joke. Well, I already packed his bags and sat by the door. This is a make it break it year for John Michael Schmidz. So if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, I can see the New York Giants, playing Greg Van Roten over him, or getting Jake Kuba some snaps, or even Marcus Bowe some snaps at center, to try to see if they can find another option at the center spot. But for right now, today, I'm saying to all you guys out there, I'm pumping the brakes on wanting to just throw JMS to the side, because a lot of people are saying, you know what, I think he's a bust. He'll have some more continuity. The guard spots he's a little bit more familiar with. The same guys are coming back into the building. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully having the veterans next to him helps. And if that does, and if he can have a strong comeback or bounce back season, not even a bounce back season, but maybe a breakout season at center, then that answers a lot of questions for the New York Giants fans, and also answers a lot of questions for Joe Schoen and Brian Dable moving forward. Like, okay, either this guy is a guy, or we got to think about who's going to be replacing him, whether it's somebody that's already on the roster, or if that's going on out into free agency during the trade deadline. I think you already have the backup in the building with Greg Van Roten. He was able to get some snaps at center last year and played pretty well. But man, in a perfect world, in a perfect scenario, John Michael Schmidz turns out to be the guy that we hoped he was coming out of college. He has to get stronger, has to stay healthy, but has to get stronger, play with better leverage, and hopefully he can call on, Jason Kelce for some pointers, being kind of an undersized center, because he's not as small as Jason Kelce was, but he's still undersized when you look at other centers in the league. But hopefully he's getting the right tutelage. I haven't seen any videos of him working out or anything like that. I don't think he's that kind of guy that's on social media like that. But I'm hoping that he is doing what he needs to do. He is on the grind, getting better, because this is a big season, especially when you got a guy like Russell Wilson. You got better quarterback play behind you. I need him to be that quarterback of the offensive line. All right, so the last guy I want to talk about, and again, if you guys watch this channel, this is a guy that I'm pulling for. I lost a lot of hope, but I'm also pulling for the kid because he tries hard. He works hard. He tries hard. He comes from a good family. He has shown potential, especially in college. Biletnikoff winner in college. He got to the Giants. He showed some flashes as a rookie, and then he absolutely disappeared last year. So you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Jaylen Hyatt. It is a big season for Jaylen Hyatt. When I think about Jaylen Hyatt, and I bring this up, I'm like, he's not getting any snaps. Jaylen Hyatt is not getting any snaps. And when I say he didn't even get enough snaps to register a grade, this is what I mean. When I go to PFF and I look up Jaylen Hyatt 2024, it says not enough snaps. Not enough snaps to even register a grade. So I can't even tell you, how he's looking as far as analytics, when it comes to the analytics, because there's no grade there for him. And that part sucks. And I don't know how he ended up in the doghouse. A lot of people have come up with some reasons for it. He can't run routes, or he's not learning the offense. The coaches don't trust him. Well, the funny thing is that he had all this success running routes and knowing the offense during training camp and in the preseason. Didn't have any issues being where he needed to be then. Now, I know it's a watered down playbook when it comes to preseason. I understand that, but OTAs and minicamp, they're putting in their offense. And we saw highlight after highlight, him, Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson making plays. And it wasn't just 9 routes or anything like that. He was in the red zone doing crossing routes. It was a lot of stuff happening. So I don't buy the excuse of him not learning the offense as why he's not on the field. Now, being able to get off the press is another thing. We already know he's not the strongest wide receiver out there. You look at his build, but I'll say this. When you look at him this offseason, he looked like he has gained a little bit of weight. Not a lot of weight where you're like, oh, no, it's a Tate Banks type of thing. No. But you can tell that he did get a little bit broader in the shoulders, and it looks like he's carrying a little bit more weight upstairs. Now, is that because he's heard all the people complaining about him not being able to get off the press? Probably so. I wish I would have been able to see more videos, and maybe if I do a little bit more research, maybe there's some tapes of him, working out during the offseason. We know that he likes to be around the quarterback. He did it with Daniel Jones last year where he was right up under the wing. Didn't help him at all because he ended up in the doghouse. But when I look at Jaylen Hyatt, I'm like, okay, we already know what Jaylen Hyatt kind of is, or what his reputation is. He's a speed guy. He's a take the top off type of guy. We haven't had a quarterback that, that could, get the best out of Jaylen Hyatt. Now, there were a lot of plays, and not just Jaylen Hyatt, where Jaylen Hyatt was open. We saw Wan'Dale Robinson be open. We saw Malik Neighbors be open early and the ball get there late. But I don't think the issue is with him actually playing the offense. I think is whatever happened and how he ended up in the doghouse, or why doesn't Brian Dable, trust him as much, or when the season starts, he disappears. I don't know how we got to figure that thing out, but we have to figure that thing out. But this video is things that I need to happen. How this roster is currently constructed. And for me, all these questions about we got to bring in Gabe Davis, we got to bring in Amari Cooper, we need to trade for Olave, who's the other guy they're looking at, Keenan Allen, who's going to be this wide receiver, who's going to be the duo. Well, we already have Darius Slayton as wide receiver 2 and Wan'Dale Robinson as wide receiver 3, or you can switch those depending on how you feel about it. But when it comes to Jaylen Hyatt, he right now, He's pretty much locked into that wide receiver 4. Why? Because of where he was drafted. He needs to prove to the coaching staff, he needs to prove to administration, Joe Shannon, that he was the right pick when we got him. I believe there's absolutely a package available for Jaylen Hyatt. There has to be a scheme. Brian Dable is smart enough to get this kid open. You knew when you drafted him what his weaknesses were. You knew, he wasn't that good against the press. Well, there's ways to, to get a guy open or scheme a guy open off the press. You line him up inside. Maybe you do some trips or something like that. You get him off the ball so he doesn't have to worry about the press. But there's ways that you can, get this guy open. Now, once you get Malik Neighbors, the scheme became Malik Neighbors, run the ball, Malik Neighbors, Malik Neighbors, Malik Neighbors. Well, now you have to be a little bit more versatile. You have a better quarterback out there. You got a guy that can read the entire field, and hopefully Jaylen Hyatt gets the opportunities, because I don't think it's about him having the production. I think it's about the opportunities that he gets, actual snaps, and that's coming from the coach. If you play Jaylen Hyatt this year with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and Jackson Dart whenever he gets in the game, he's going to get some targets down the field. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But just wanted to talk about the 3 things that I need to happen for the New York Giants. And again, that 2023 draft class is looking like a complete and utter mess. But the 2025 season, if these 3 guys can turn it around and be productive, if John Michael Schmidz can be that A1 center that we thought he can be, if Tay Banks can be that, shut down physical cornerback that we thought he could be, then yeah, I think the New York Giants, have something to that. And of course, Jaylen Hyatt. If Jaylen Hyatt can be that guy that can take the top off whenever we need to, yeah. I like how this team is looking. I like the opportunities that should be out there this year, and hopefully the quarterback play matches. But again, it's still only May. We got a lot more time before the season starts, and I'm hoping these Giants just get after it. Just get after it. All these 3 guys, if you just so happen to stumble upon this video, John Michael Schmidz, Tay Banks, Jaylen Hyatt, you have a lot of fans rooting for you guys. You got a lot of people out there hating as well, but just know that the majority of this fan base is rooting for you guys, because if you guys do good, that means the Giants are doing good, and everybody here can agree on that we want the Giants to be better. Make the Giants great again. Make sure you guys go ahead and grab a hat. It's in the store. But with that being said, I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.